Dead Cells is one of the most iconic games ever made, with beautiful graphics and amazing gameplay mechanics. However, the game is not perfect, and there are several core issues and things that you must know about before you consider buying it. So let's find out if Dead Cells is worth it for you. But the game is a roguelike action platformer set in a dark and ever-changing castle, filled with dangerous creatures and challenging obstacles, where you must fight your way through procedurally generated levels. The ultimate goal is therefore to defeat powerful bosses, unlock new abilities, and discover the many hidden secrets of the castle. What you'll also notice is that the world of Dead Cells is rich with atmosphere, blending really good elements of gothic horror but with vibrant pixel art visuals. Furthermore, the game's fluid combat system, combined with a constant threat of permadeath, creates a really tense and exciting experience, not seen in many other games. But when it comes to the main gameplay, it is all about fast-paced action-packed combat and exploration in a procedurally generated world. Your goal is to progress through various levels of a dark, mysterious castle, defeat a ton of enemies, and collect resources. The core mechanics are therefore centered around roguelike elements, meaning that when you die, you start over from the beginning, but some of your progression will carry over. However, this is not as punishing as it may sound, as every death is an opportunity to learn from your mistakes. For example, you might begin a run with a basic sword and shield, but as you progress, you'll unlock and find a variety of other weapons. This could be a bow that shoots multiple arrows, or a powerful broadsword that deals massive damage. So as you can probably imagine, Dead Cells' replayability is one of its greatest strengths. Since the levels are procedurally generated, no two runs are ever exactly the same. Then on top of it, you add a ton of variety of weapons, abilities, and upgrades, which means there are countless ways to approach every run. Additionally, the game even includes several difficulty levels, where you can increase the difficulty and challenge for even greater rewards. And that brings me to my next point, the game's progression system, and it is super interconnected with the gameplay mechanics. So where every run in the game is an opportunity to learn and improve, you'll also unlock new content. So in the early game, when you first start out, you'll have the most basic equipment, but as you then explore and defeat enemies, you'll collect cells, and that is the game's currency for unlocking permanent upgrades. This could be weapons, abilities, and much more. So when you first start playing the game, you'd want to focus on getting familiar with the basic controls, learning enemy patterns, and understanding the different weapon types and abilities. But as you then progress, you'll start to unlock way more advanced tools and options, allowing for more complex but also varied gameplay. For example, you might unlock a crazy powerful weapon that shoots fireballs, or even unlock a mutation that increases your damage when you're low on health. These unlocks not only make future runs easier, but also add a ton of depth to the overall gameplay, allowing for great experimentation with different playstyles. As you then progress through the mid-game, and especially towards the end-game, the difficulty ramps up significantly. The enemies become way tougher, the levels are more challenging, and the bosses are extremely difficult. However, by this point, you of course have very strong weapons, abilities, and upgrades that you have unlocked over many runs. As you'll notice, the game also rewards perseverance. So the more you play and learn, the better equipped you'll be to tackle the more difficult levels. So overall, this progression system is designed to keep you coming back for more, where you have a gradual unlocking of new content combined with increasing difficulty, and ensures that everyone feels different, meaningful, and rewarding. Now, I want to dive way deeper into the best features of the game, and the first one has to be the combat system. It is so fluid and responsive, and it's unlike any other roguelike game out there. The game's controls are incredibly tight, allowing for really precise movement and attacks, which is very crucial in a game like this. Furthermore, the combat is a blend of fast-paced action, but also requiring strategic planning, where you must learn enemy patterns, choosing the correct weapon for the right situation, but also timing your dodges perfectly. Another standout feature is the procedurally generated levels, which ensures that no two playthroughs are exactly the same. So every time you start a new run, the layout of the level, the placement of enemies, and even the location of secrets and treasures are randomized. This keeps the game constantly challenging, but also engaging, as you can't just rely on memorizing every level layout, but you instead have to adapt and make quick decisions based on the new environment. And the final amazing feature is the permadeath system, where dying means starting from the beginning again. However, this mechanic is also balanced by the game's progression system, where you can unlock permanent upgrades and new equipment that carry over between runs, even when you die. These elements combined, the tight combat, the endless variety of weapons and abilities, the unpredictable level design, and the overall balance between risk and reward, they all blend together to create a really amazing game that is challenging, rewarding, but also with endless replayability. It is these three systems combined that makes the game truly stand out. Now let's talk about the game's difficulty, because as you can probably imagine, with all these mechanics, this game can be incredibly hard, but that is a core part of the game's design. It won't hold your hand at all, and you are required to learn through trial and error, and this definitely makes the game quite tough, especially for new players, but also makes every success feel earned. So when you first start out, the game can feel very overwhelming at first. The enemies are tough, and the permadeath system means that every mistake can send you back to the beginning, and you'll quite often experience entering a new level and facing a group of enemies that you've never encountered before, so you don't know their attack patterns, and you could easily be overwhelmed and lose a lot of health or even die, which can become very frustrating over time. But this is not only for the casual player, as even the most experienced player will often get overwhelmed, even with many hours of gameplay, especially when you suddenly face a boss that demands completely different strategies to what you're used to. This will force you to adapt on the fly. Now, I wouldn't say that the game caters more to hardcore than casual player, but definitely caters to those who enjoy a challenge and are willing to put in the time to learn the mechanics, as trial and error is the most important aspect of the progression. Now, let's talk about the game's graphics, sound, and atmosphere. And as you can tell by this video, the graphics are great, with a stunning pixel art style that is both dark and gothic. The detailed environment and smooth animations also make every action feel fluid and responsive. The art style is both vibrant but also haunting, creating a very unique look unlike many other games. The sound and music also play a crucial role in Immersion, where the dynamic soundtrack will adapt to the intensity of the gameplay, ramping up during the tougher battles, but also calming just during exploration. Then on top of it, you add the sound effect. This could be anywhere from the clashing of weapons to the very eerie noises of the castle, which adds a ton of depth to the overall experience. These things combined makes the atmosphere of Dead Cells very dark, mysterious, and full of tension, where you have a combination of pixel art style, immersive sound design, and challenging gameplay mechanics. It really creates an immersive world. Now, with that being said, the game is not perfect, and there are several pros and cons that we must cover. One of the biggest pros is the fast-paced and fluid combat system. The controls are really tight and responsive, and really makes every fight feel exciting but also satisfying. Furthermore, the game offers a ton of variety in terms of weapons, abilities, and upgrades, which means you can keep experimenting with different strategies and playstyles, really keeping the gameplay fresh and engaging. The next pro is the procedurally generated levels. This ensures that every playthrough is unique, really adding to the game's overall longevity and replayability. Then on top of it, you add the game's art style, the music, and the overall game atmosphere that really creates an immersive experience that really draws you in. And now for the cons. The first one has to be the steep learning curve. So while the difficulty is a core part of the game, you will quite often find areas or monsters that you have never encountered before, and especially on bosses, the learning curve can be incredibly high, and the game overall will require a lot of trial and error. And the next con is the minimal storyline. You do not play this game at all for the story, so if you're looking for a very deep narrative, you will be disappointed. And while the environmental storytelling is quite intriguing, it won't provide nearly the same level of depth as a more story-driven game. Now, with all that said, let's grade the game. And Dead Cell gets an amazing 9 out of 10, and for several reasons. First has to be the exceptional gameplay, the crazy high replayability, and the very unique art style. The game has incredibly fast-paced combat that is both challenging but also rewarding, making it a true standout title in the roguelike genre. Additionally, the sheer variety of weapons and abilities makes everyone feel fresh. Then on top of it, the procedurally generated levels ensures that no two playthroughs are ever exactly the same. However, the game has several drawbacks. The first one has to be the steep learning curve and the minimal storyline. So while the high difficulty is a core gameplay mechanic, it will also be a big drawback for some players, especially with the permadeath system, where you lose a lot of your progress upon dying, which can be very frustrating. Additionally, the game's story is quite minimal, which might also disappoint you if you're looking for a more story-driven experience. However, if you can really appreciate challenging skill-based combat with a ton of replayability, this game might be perfect for you, as you can experiment endlessly with different strategies, weapons, and abilities in a game that will reward you for dedication and persistence. And if you're still watching this video by now, Dead Cells is a must-buy game for you, and it's absolutely worth your time and money. For more amazing games, click here.